Welcome back to Breaking Down the Mix. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for watching our first episode of Stevie Wonder Hanukkah. What's an episode? Anyway, this next episode is going to be an a cappella track, and you heard a little bit of it behind me. I'm going to show you a little preview of the full YouTube video right here. Awesome. Hope you enjoy that, and I hope you check out the full video of Get Out and Plant a Tree in the description below. But it's almost time here for Tu B'Shvat, which is the holiday of the trees, and I'm going to show you how this mix came together and everything that we got going on. Check it out. Cool, we're in the chorus here, and we're going to show you how this whole thing was put together. This is a little bit of a larger mix than the Stevie Wonder Hanukkah was, but not much. You could see all the tracks here. As I said on the last episode, I tend to build my mixes from the bottom up, but in a cappella, it is notably a little bit different. In this case, we have all of our vocals, and then we have beatbox on the bottom. I'm actually going to talk about the beatbox last, because this is a vocal-driven song, and so it's all about the vocals. So here on the top, we have our trio vocals. We have myself, Chaim, and Corey. Then we have the woos, and then we have the gots. And I labeled them because those are the syllables we used here. The lead vocals, we had our woos and our gots. Let me show you our woos. Woohoo! 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 Fairly simple. It's got a really cool energy to it. Woohoo! It's got a really cool vibe to it. When you put all three vocals together, it gives a nice thick sound. Woohoo! Woohoo! Now, in the nature of breaking down the mix, I'm going to show you how I broke it down. So here we are in the mix window. You could see here I have one of the high voice. I have the high voice pan 50 left, the low voice pan 50 right, and the melody line in the center. I have these three vocals bust out to bus 11 and 12, and that bus is here. It's called the woos bus. Now, one tip I'll give you about working in Pro Tools is I find the colors are very helpful. Actually, at this point, let's make a l'chaim here. I find for myself, the colors are really helpful for me in knowing what I'm looking at. So you see here, I have the yellow track. For me, yellow means aux buses. So this is what I bus my tracks to. And you see these blue ones, for me, light blue means vocals. So here I have the woos, the three vocal tracks. You see they're just single tracks, panned in different directions, and bust out to the woos bus. And you see I have no inputs, or inserts I should say, on the vocals themselves. All of my inserts are on the bus. And that's how I treated it. I had individual buses, woos, gots, and claps, and those each get their own treatment. So on the woos track, we have a Pultec EQ. Woohoo! Woohoo! Now I'm just going to move this to the side, and I'm going to show you what this sounded like before. So in Pro Tools, you just hit Command, and you can mute your buses. So woohoo! Your plugins, I should say. This is what it sounded like before. Woohoo! Woohoo! Now the way I build it up, I'm going to put on that Pultec. Woohoo! Woohoo! Now you could hear that actually does a lot to the mix. Let me show you what I did here. You see the Pultec right here has a high mid section and a high section, and then I did a little bit here in the lows. I have it set at 100 hertz, and I boosted that about 2 decibels. Actually, I don't know if these are really decibels. On the Pultec, it's just 2. So I boosted it up to around 2. And then here in the high mids, I have it at 5 kilohertz, 5K, and that's boosted about 6. Let me show you what it sounds like without that 5K. Woohoo! Woohoo! A little bit duller. The 5K kind of brings it woohoo! A little more excited. That brings out the presence of the vocal. And then the top here at 10K is the breathiness. Let me play it for you without. Woohoo! And with. Woohoo! And you hear between these two things, this at 6 decibels and this at 5 decibels. Woohoo! And then up to this. Woohoo! So you can really hear the difference with that. One thing I notice is, for me, the way I appreciate that sound is it sounds to me like we're singing with a blanket over our heads. And then all of a sudden you take the blanket off our heads and you could hear everything. For me, this Pultec does a lot. Once again, bypassed. Whoa! And on. Whoa! Really, really exciting sound. The next thing we're going to do is look at our compressor. Okay, once again, I'm going to mute our compressor. Whoa! And on. Whoa! Now this one is much more subtle. One thing I'll say about compression is you really need to be gentle with it. Some people use a compressor as a sound shaping tool, which is very cool to do, and you're welcome to experiment with that, to use it to really shape your sound. But most of the times, the point of the compression is to take those highest transients and to try and knock them down a little bit, and to take the softer parts of the performance and raise them up so that the dynamic range is reduced and you have a much more smooth and even performance. Then when you build up all the voices on top of each other, you get something that's much fuller, and then you could boost it in post and come up with something that's really YouTube ready. So in this case, the compressor is working gently. The compressor is working to just do this simple compression to even out the transients. Whoa! 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 Now, the last thing I did on this before we move on from woohoos is some reverb. Whoa! Whoa! You could see how that gives it a nice ambiance. The reverb is bussed out. There's actually not a lot of it, but it's bussed out to bus 1 and 2, which if you see on my mixer over here is my reverb bus. And I just have, again, I use a stock deverb here. I'm using a room, a medium-sized room here, 720 milliseconds. And it's not a huge sound, but I wanted it to be a sound that could be realistic for an outdoor performance like you just saw with Get Out and Plant a Tree. All right, enough about woos. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of this mix, which is the gots. Here we go.
Well, I came to a place that I used to know where I'd play in my house up in a tree.
Now for me, the gots are the key to this song. If you listen to them by themselves, again, we have 3 voices. We have myself, we have Chaim and Corey. Again, I have them panned the same. Myself, I'm panned 50 to the left. Corey is panned 50 to the right, and Chaim is down the middle. He's the lead vocal in this case. And again, they're light blue, bussed out to a bus. Bus 13 and 14 in this case. And I have a similar treatment. Pultec, LA2A. In this case, I have a DeEsser. But the key to those gots is the way they're sung. When you do a part like this, you have to sing it with the right aggression and the right energy. Now, this song was originally based on KT Tunstall's Black Horse in a Cherry Tree, which I think was from the mid to late 80s, maybe early 90s. You could check that out online and comment below and let us know exactly what year it was. I could also look it up, but not right now because I'm talking to you guys. But it had a really aggressive acoustic guitar line. I'll actually show you that part right now. So here I got my, my Martin, and I'll just play you a little bit of that part. You could hear how the guitar is really, really aggressive. And it's not just the way I'm playing it, it's the way she arranged it. So I wanted to do that in an a cappella way that would capture that energy. Now, if you see also, it's not aggressive the whole time. It's not that type of aggression where it's going throughout. It's actually hot and cold, with a lot of palm muting and a lot of gentle kind of nuances in the part. Let me put my guitar down. So when I got back to the voices, I was very keen on trying to find a syllable and a performance that could capture that same sound of the acoustic guitar. And I think we got it simply with the word got. Now you could see that just that syllable alone really gives it a real aggression. Now, taking off these plugins again, I'll take off the reverb as well. Do you hear how that really does sound like the guys have a blanket over their head? And when I just put the Pultec on, sounds like you took it off. With the compressor and the DeEsser, That really gives it a much more exciting sound. Now I'm going to show you this DeEsser because DeEssers are really important to use at times. Take a look at what this is doing. Now you can see this DeEsser is working pretty hard, and without it, it sounds like this. There you can really hear it. You hear those T's really hard. So I wanted that as the percussive element in the mix, but I also wanted it to be smoother when I was putting it all together. So this DeEsser really does that. And when you're setting up a DeEsser, you could solo that frequency. Right? And then you could unsolo it. And you could hear it working. Excellent. So that's really working well. That is our GOTS. The next section is our vocal percussion. So let's scroll down to that. Now this was actually a combination of two styles of percussion. I wanted it to be really natural, and so I wanted us to be involved in the percussion. So for me, I was doing something like just simple slapping on my lap. Then we had Corey, I believe, doing some snaps. And we had Chaim doing... And I took those simple things, a lap, a snap, and a clap, and I created it into a bit of a polyrhythm. Check this out. Here starts with the laps. Simple, right? Then when you add in the snaps... right? And the claps. Really cool. And if you notice in my mix window here, these are also panned. The snaps are panned hard right, and the claps and the laps are in the center. Then, when you put on our kick drum, so to speak, which is called the stomp, and if you check in the video, this is actually a 2x4 of wood that we put on the floor, and Corey was literally stomping his foot on the wood. This gave it a really cool sound, and coupled with his awesome beatboxing, you were able to get a rhythm that drives the song forward. So you take those GOTS with that aggressive chorus of the guitar line, and you combine that with the percussive body sounds, combined with the beatboxing, and you have something that really drives forward, and is still a cappella. So, let me just show you what I did on the stomp, because the stomp was actually one of the more interesting tracks here. Okay, so this actually picks up a little bit later in the chorus. It starts really stomping. And look at what we have here. I have a little trim here because this was recorded a little hot in the studio. And then I have two EQP1As. These are basically the pull tech, but this just has the low frequency and the high frequency. It doesn't have any of the mid frequencies. I guess I tried a Pull Tech Pro on this and I found that I didn't need that. What I needed was to boost the low and the highs. If you look here on the first one, let me actually just take these two off, show you what it sounded like without it. You could hear that is dramatically different. So I put on the first one, and this helped me to get some bottom end. If you look here, this is at 60 Hertz, I boosted 5. And this is at 12K, I also boosted 5. This allowed me to get the stomp of the foot, but it also allowed me to get some of the bottom end of the rumbling of the room. Now couple that with the second EQ. This brought in much more of that rumbling, and it was even lower, 30 Hertz. I boosted that 4.5K. So I was able to get a sound that, even though naturally going into the mic, you didn't have so much of that rumbling, the studio here, actually the walls and the floor were really rumbling. So when you boost that 30 Hertz, you really get more of that sound in your mix, and this gives it almost a kick drum type feel. Put that together again with the claps and the laps and the snaps. Really cool. All right, let's listen together with the vocals.
I know, I know. Get out and plant a tree, I know. Get out and plant a tree. Got to.
that's a really cool spot right there. When the bass singer goes down an octave, here's the bass track.
Get out and plant a tree.
Yeah, so that really kind of like everything stops. You just hear that bass singer singing, get out and plant a tree. I can barely sing it. But basically, he goes out and then the gots come back in and that gets the rhythm driving forward again. Let's just look at that bass track. If you see, I did nothing to it. It's okay sometimes to do nothing. You don't always have to feel like you have to do something to everything. Sometimes you get a good recording on the way in.
Get out and plant a tree.
I just added a little reverb.
Get out and plant a tree.
That was the dry.
Get out and plant a tree.
So don't always feel, a lot of amateur mixers, they'll go in and they'll start mixing and they'll think, let me add this EQ, let me add this compressor, this reverb, this delay, let me add this, and multiband and side chaining and parallel compression, all this stuff. Sometimes it doesn't make it better. Sometimes you just keep adding stuff and you think it's cool. And it may be cool, you may be having fun, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it makes it better. So you gotta really always be listening and paying attention if you're making a difference to the mix.
Get out and plant a tree.
And I love how this goes straight from get out and plant a tree to gotta gotta.
Get out and plant a tree.
Good, now I'm gonna show you one last thing, which is our beatbox kind of breakdown here. And it is right here. So I'm going to focus on this first part here with the little... Yeah, so I used a different kick drum here for his beatbox. But obviously the most interesting thing here is those clicks. Yeah, and that's Corey's awesome creative beatboxing. These are pretty simple, little trim on it, a little EQ. This is without and with. Very cool. A very, very cool creative spot. You put it together with the mix. Ilano, no, get out and plant a tree, sing it. Ilano, building up now, and here comes the stomp back. Cool. One last thing I want to show you before we call it an episode is the lead vocals, because we haven't paid any attention to that. So let's look up here. Chaim, Corey, and myself. You see, I have the most processing here of all the tracks. This is Chaim. We have a trim. We have an EQ one band EQ here. You see here I'm rolling off at 100 hertz. That's a really good way. If you ever have plosives on the microphone, plosives are a way of expressing like a p or a b kind of a sound where the microphone sounds like it pops. It's really easy to get rid of. Just put a one band EQ, roll off the high pass, and just roll it up to 100, 120, 130, and those plosives are gone. After that, we have a 7-band EQ with a gentle boost here at 250, 260, and then a little cut here at 2.5K. Actually, 2.5K is that nasal sound in the voice that I oftentimes like to bring down because it gets shrill. And when you master a track like this, the level comes up so much that if you have any of those shrill frequencies in the track, they're going to be amplified, and you'll hear them even more than you did before. So you got to be careful as you're mixing and as you're building your mix. Any problems that you hear, try and limit them as you go, because later they will become a slightly larger problem. All right, and then after that EQ, I have a little LA2A compressor on him. This compressor is actually working. Listen to it without. This compressor on those long notes. This is actually getting those notes kind of held a little bit. And because of that compressor, when you have the drums pumping away under it, the voice is kind of creamy and smooth on top. It really makes it work well together. If the voice was popping in and out, and the drums are popping in and out, they're constantly catching your attention, and you're not able to really focus as well. Cool. And that's what we got here. So the other vocals, you know, I could show you mine and Corey's, but they're treated fairly similar. Roll off here at 100 hertz for those plosives. we got a Pultec. No, 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 no. Cool, and the same thing. Compressor. No. You'll see as you look around my mixes, you don't need to buy hundreds and thousands of dollars of expensive compressors and outboard gear like I have the Avalon here and all these different things. You don't need to buy all of this stuff in order to say that you're a good mix engineer. All you need to do is know how to use what you have. And you could just use the stock Pro Tools plugins. In this case, I have Universal Audio plugins. I really like the way those sound. But as you look around, you'll see I use the Pultec on almost everything. I use my LA2A on many things. I use my Universal Audio DeEsser. You don't need a million plugins. It's fairly simple. All right, and for reverb, I'm bussing all of these things out here. Everything here with the bus 1 and 2 send is going to that same reverb bus. All right, and that's that one reverb that I used. So I was able to get a really good sound that I was really happy with. Putting it all together, I got Ilano, no. Cool. And that's it. That's how you put together a mix like Get Out and Plant a Tree. Happy Tu B'Shvat, everyone. We're so grateful to the Jewish National Fund, JNF, for sponsoring this video and for sponsoring Get Out and Plant a Tree. And we hope that this Tu B'Shvat, you all check out the video. Link in description below. And we hope that you all sponsor JNF and get out and plant a tree for yourself. It can only help Israel and help the world. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to comment below and let us know what you thought of this episode. We did this one at night with a little bit of a different lighting setup, so let us know. You like it at night? You like it during the day? We want to hear from you. Leave us a comment, like this video, and don't forget to subscribe for many more videos like this and like Get Out and Plant a Tree. And we'll see you next time.